Welcome to Franchise Focus. I'm Laura Blackmore, your host, and a franchise consultant with over a decade experience in franchising. Franchising isn't one size fits all, and this podcast helps focus on what truly matters. Each week, we pull back the curtain with top industry experts. Whether you're exploring your first franchise or expanding your portfolio, let's dive in. Welcome to Franchise Focus. Today, I'm excited to welcome Clay McKee, Vice President of Franchise Development at Home Helpers Home Care. Clay brings over 2 decades of experience in franchising, including leadership roles across both emerging and established brands. He's passionate about helping people find purpose-driven business opportunities, and Home Helpers is a perfect example of that. For more than 25 years, Home Helpers has been a trusted leader in home care. A big part of the success comes from the vision and steady leadership of their CEO, Emma Dickinson, a true pioneer in the senior care franchise space. Under her guidance, the brand has built a reputation for compassionate care, innovation, and strong franchisee support. Clay, I'm thrilled to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Laura. It's happy to be here with you. So I've been here actually at Home Helpers this Thursday. Will be 12 years.
Wow! Congratulations.
It's a milestone to be hit. And what's crazy about that is that I think I'm 5th or 6th down in tenure at the company. We have many that have been here 20, 19, 18, 17 years.
That tells you something.
It's amazing to be able to see the decades of experience, not only at Home Helpers, but in franchising. But I actually started here in 2010, which is my first gig in franchising. Left in 2016, spread my wings, get into a couple of the emerging brands that you mentioned there, and then boomerang back in 2020, equity partner in order to continue the growth of the Home Helpers brand.
That's fantastic. And can you give it an overview of its mission and how it differentiates itself in the home care industry?
Of course, everybody has heard of home care. Either you're dealing with it personally in your life, or you're looking at businesses and you see home care, healthcare, senior care plastered all over the place. But we've done this for now 28 years. Home Helpers has over 360 franchises nationwide, which makes us one of the largest and most tenured home care franchisors in the space. And Home Helpers differentiates itself not only with that tenure and that size, but we've actually been ranked as the #1 non-medical senior care company in the nation through Entrepreneur Magazine for half a decade, which is unprecedented. But we've actually never put senior in our name. So we can open that up to new mothers, recuperative care clients, people with lifelong illnesses, which can open up 25, 30% more referral sources. We're one of the few that allow our owners to move into skilled medical if they so choose.
Okay.
And this is really something that you're going to see a lot in the space. But when it really comes down to name recognition and creating relationships with the referral sources, they really need to know that it's a nationally recognized, reputable company. And Home Helpers all across the U.S. continues to be able to show themselves as that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you talk about that referral source, what that does for a candidate, that people are going to want to know how you market, how you find customers, and that is a huge part of in-home care. But can you talk a little bit about Home Helpers and just what you do to aid in that and someone marketing themselves?
Yeah, it's different than, let's say you've got a landscaping company or an ice cream shop. You're trying to get someone to either come to your store, or you're hanging door knockers on people's doors saying, "Look, I did your neighbor's yard. Look at this." Nobody's driving around town with their mom in the backseat of their car looking for home care. It just is not something that you need to have billboards up and things of that nature. So this is, in the largest point, is a relationship-built marketing strategy with the healthcare professionals within the community, because they're the ones that need to make sure that when they discharge mom home to be able to receive companion care, personal care, what have you, that they're making sure that client gets the care that they need, and they're coming back to that hospital when they have another ailment, and they're making sure that the individual that's taking care of them truly is licensed, bonded, and doing the right job. And then on the digital front, you're seeing that the individuals that are truly making the decision, or the end user decision maker, is not the senior themselves, but really the adult children that may live, states hundreds of miles, thousands of miles away. They need to have peace of mind to know that a company that's taking care of their loved one is the family where they can't be. And we are that family where they can't be.
Wow. And you guys have something unique, right? The Care For program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Care for is a game changer. That's something that we actually came up with in 2020. Really, the big part was about the hospital dischargers. And the hospital dischargers, of course, wish to reduce the hospital readmission rates
Right.
as much as they can. And one of the big parts of that is to make sure that when that individual is discharged back home, that they're not being readmitted back into the hospital for a particular ailment within a certain amount of time. So the Cared For program is one to where it's a 4-tiered approach to full comprehensive home care that includes a caregiver going into the individual's home to provide a certain amount of hours of care. Our direct link offering, which comes with home helpers, that's going to be the I fall and I can't get up type of technology that fills in the hours of the day. No one's there. Wellness checks into the candidate during the times the caregiver's not there, and also nutrition plans through Clean Eats that are heart healthy, diabetic friendly, protein rich, chef inspired flash frozen meals that are sent directly into the client's home. And all of these help to make sure that client is not going backwards in the process, but they're completing that circle back into the hospital when the time is needed.
When someone is thinking about business ownership, I mean, I know it takes a unique person, and this industry is growing like crazy, and there's a fair amount of competition. But you, as you've talked about, have been ranked so high. What's important to you when you're looking for potential owners to what do they need to have? What are their skill sets that really stand out that makes someone successful and a good fit for home helpers?
Yeah, there's a number of things that I look for, and over the 12 years and 170 plus franchises that helped
Mm.
in this organization, everyone goes through my same process, which is what I call my 2 T's and my 2 F's, and that is the fit, the financing, the territory, and the timing. It's kind of like the 4 legs of a chair.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that they're all stable for us to be able to have a good partnership with each other. And the making sure that the territory, of course, is open, the demographics look right, making sure that the timing, what are they transitioning from? Are they going to be able to devote themselves full time to the business? Making sure this is going to be the right fit. They can see themselves doing this years down the road. And then, of course, financially, making sure that they're not using their last dime to do this. In 3 months, if they can't pay their mortgage through here, we don't want those situations. We want to make sure individuals are properly financed. They've got a cushion because this is a very expedited model to be able to get up and running and to be able to see ROI because you don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars needed for overhead and equipment, product, and storefront. But it still does need that first year is that building year. So we really like a lot of times corporate refugees, individuals that have owned businesses before, husband-wife combos. One continues to work, one supports and has that cash flow still coming in. But it's all different ranges out there. But again, looking at those 2 T's and those 2 F's helps me to identify the right fit as well.
What helps make someone more successful that first year as they're building that foundation? What are they doing that's different than others that takes longer?
Well, I would say uh, our model is built to be ran lean at the beginning, kind of wearing the hat of marketing, HR, office management, but having someone come in with them, and not necessarily as a partner, but wearing one of those hats. Someone that's truly going to be able to be more marketing savvy or more HR savvy, that they're going to and we help them to identify those individuals and hire them in, but doing that sooner than later. But having an owner that truly is dedicated full time to the business and seeing what all those hats are and knowing who's going to be the best to bring in and take that load off their shoulders is ideal. And I'd say, two, following the system to a T. There are a lot of great true entrepreneurs out there that maybe won't make a good franchisee. If they want to develop things all on their own. Here, 28 years of intellectual property and proven success. We want you to follow the system to a T and work with the new franchise services and our support team to implement that. And if you do that, there's no reason you shouldn't see success.
And is prior healthcare experience helpful in this business, or?
Not at all. I mean, it's not needed by any means. Now, there are certain states that may require that you have an administrator or a nurse that signs off on the plan of care. Now, that's always someone that can be hired or contracted in. But I have seen some husband-wife combos that come in, and one of them may have that certification or that diploma. And what that does is that may help to keep some of the costs internal if one can have their name onto there. Once they move to skilled medical, if they do choose to go that route, you definitely need to have a nurse, but it's really state by state when that comes in, but definitely not required by any means.
And to start this, what is like the typical overall investment for someone?
So it's not pocket change by any means, but then
Mhm.
again, it's not the exorbitant cost of a gym or a restaurant or
Right.
something with a lot of overhead. The investment hovers around about 130,000. Depends on state and things, but the franchise fee hovers around 50,000. Working capital around 80,000. That'll take care of state licensing, insurances, marketing, softwares, just things needed to successfully run the business over the first year.
Is there a typical time frame in terms of the ramp up to be able to recruit people as well as getting your first customers?
That's another one that's going to depend upon the state, which we all know that every state's a little different. But typically, my process typically takes about 45 to 60 days to be able to go through the education side, the FTD, introducing them, to the brand, getting information from them so we can introduce them to other franchisees for validation, to the point of meeting our team and getting an approval. And then they would enter our onboarding program with new franchise services, where it can typically be about 3 to 4 months. In that time, some states have no licensure, some states have licensure. It can take 9+ months. Some of it's based around there, but that's a time to build the business foundation,
Okay.
be able to get everything set up in order to come to our 5-day new owner training.
Okay.
And then once they get back home, it's implementing and opening the doors with the new franchise services team to get it launched. So it's building the proverbial storefront, even though there's not one, in that 3 to 4 month time frame.
So they're coming to training after they've secured their license. Is that typically the way it goes, or? Okay.
Yeah, because that's typically the longest time allocation in onboarding. Some may come to training a month before, or right when they expect it to come to fruition. You work with new franchise services in order to say, all right, we're getting close. Let's do training, get the license, come to fruition within the next week or so, and then launch the business. So they'll hold your hand through everything to make sure it's done at the proper time.
And what other kind of training and support do you offer the franchisees over their course?
Yeah, so I mentioned the name New Franchise Services a few times. It's actually headed up by our Senior Director of Franchise Services, Mercedes Morgan. She's been with us for 19 years, so she definitely knows her stuff and knows home care. Her and her team work with new owners within that onboarding time
Okay.
through the 5-day owner training. And then they're staying with those candidates for the first 2 years, holding their hand through everything from the launch to hitting a particular amount of hours, doing site visits, getting them into a growth group and an agency of excellence, which is shadowing a current owner to make sure they're grabbing all that information. And then they would graduate after that point to a regional performance coach, which continues the support and training through the life of their franchise from there on out.
Fantastic. Do you have what strategies, I guess, in place to help the franchisees grow and increase their base, their client base? I know the referral is one part, but is there any other things you guys are doing?
Yeah, well, the agency of excellence was something
Yes.
that we used to have. It was called a certified training center. Through COVID, a lot of things changed with becoming more virtual environment and much travel. Of course, that's all come back in, and we've re-engaged those, having our regional meetings all in the fall, so all of our owners can get together in their particular regions. To our national conference that we do in the spring. We just got back from Nashville a few months ago, and we had 300 plus altogether in Nashville.
Wow.
Which was an amazing time to share best practices, speakers. But we also, our CEO and president, Em Dickinson, which you mentioned there at the beginning, has been with us for 18 years.
Yeah.
She just passed the gavel over as being the president of the Home Care Association of America, which is the largest trade association within home care. She did that through COVID. That worked on legislation, regulation, everything within the home care industry. And now she's on a few different advisory boards within the IFA. So she's continuing to be able to help grow and support individuals in all of franchising. So bringing that back to our owners is giving them opportunities within the IFA, the Home Care Association of America, giving them additional education into there to continue to be successful.
And you mentioned that you do other services other than senior care being that low hanging fruit, but is there some kind of average mix of that, or is everybody kind of a little unique in that aspect?
Yeah, it is a little unique. It's, personal preference on a lot of it. What I call the core four, which, is different than cared for that I just talked about. My core four is essentially identifying what the core client is. And that's typically a senior that pays out of pocket for non-medical home care that ages in place in their own home. But like we said, there's new mothers, there's recuperative care clients, there's people with lifelong illnesses that can open up 25, 30% more referral sources. You can move into the skilled medical route. There's different pay sources above and beyond private pay. That could be private insurance, long-term care insurance, veterans benefits, Medicaid, and then wherever they call home, which could be their home, their adult children's home, veterans hospital. So there's a ton of ways to scale the business out there. It doesn't need to be just in that senior care bubble.
Right.
There's a lot of ways to scale the revenue.
And how have you seen the demand for in-home care evolve in recent years?
Yeah, it's when I got in this in 2010. We're before the silver tsunami, as they call it, washing across America. Before the 10,000 a day uh, uh, baby boomers. They've already seen this year alone over 4.1 million individuals turning 65, and it's an amazing amount of individuals that we saw so many years ago to build the brand to this point now that they're projected this out past 2060. 9 out of 10 individuals above the age of 65 wish to be able to age in place at home. Preferred choice. It's a quarter to a third of the cost of a nursing home. Who wants to go share a room with someone else in a place to where you'll never see your family really again? So this is becoming even more and more prevalent, relevant ever since to COVID and the things that we saw in nursing facilities and all that. Then it's becoming the number one choice for families to help their loved ones age in place.
And you're looking to continue using more and more technologies to help with some of the services that you provide for your families?
Of course, AI is always everywhere. And at the IFA this last year, I mean, you could throw a rock and hit about 10 different speakers talking about AI. And we definitely incorporated in a lot to help with our marketing, the voice. What's great about this industry, too, is this is not really something that can be Amazoned out or robots to be able to take over. Until we see, the Jetsons model out there and someone being able to come into the home and take care of someone as essentially a robot, it's going to be a continued service that's needed, and we're going to be able to incorporate a lot of technology in, which is what our direct link side does a lot. Personal emergency response system units, fall detectors, geofencing, vital sign monitoring equipment. So there's so many things that we have into there to put some monitoring into the home to give that additional peace of mind and really have that as an additional revenue stream as well.
So speaking of the caregivers, and what is that? I know a lot of people have concern about that in terms of finding enough, but where are you having success in that area?
Yeah, we've had continued success throughout our tenure here. And I remember times of COVID happening and people were saying, I go by my local coffee shop and there's twice as long a lines and help wanted. And how are you dealing with that? And so Well, first, we were deemed as an essential business through COVID, so we didn't have to lay off individuals. And also, if a recession or another pandemic happens, this is not a luxury type of service. This isn't to where maybe I'll give that up. We don't need that this month. If mom needs care, mom will continue to need care. So it's all about the matching. And at the beginning, making sure to attract high caliber caregivers over, which the brand continues to do. We pay at a premium as we go to market at a premium. We provide continuing education through Home Helpers University, Care Academy. We have incentive programs for the caregivers to bring in other individuals that are going to be out there. And then making sure through the software, as the plan of care is built for the client, including their ailment, their time of need, their geographical location. As the caregiver puts in their availability, their geographical location, their expertise, the software will automatically match those individuals. So we know on paper they fit, and then we have all the training and support on how to be able to go through those interviews, make sure the personality fits.
Oh, fantastic.
And that will do long-lasting relationships within the home instead of just trying to find somebody with a pulse, because that doesn't work.
Right. Excellent. So you're able to continue to source that. And then they just, I would imagine, have to just stay on top of that. Are most franchises starting off with a full-time recruiter and a full-time business development, or?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, you can leverage a lot and run it more lean here because all of our new owners are getting access to Career Plug Pro for the first year. That's a feeder into the caregiver pool. We have over 10 different national alliances through Indeed, Career Builder, mycnajobs.com, Military Spouse Program, that are all feeders in to help leverage that at the beginning. But if that is an owner's weak point, the HR, they can't see themselves doing that. We already have job posts and roles and responsibilities built to be able to say, here's who you would hire in. Mm-hmm. Here's who makes a great HR coordinator that can hire, train, schedule, and stay on top of that whole HR side. So it makes it easier to say, all right, I'm going to shift my focuses to marketing. This person's going to handle HR. And in the next 6 months, maybe I'll bring in an office manager to handle the rest of everything.
Can you play out a bit like the building the referral sources? What's that look like for a franchisee? What are they doing to build that? How does that grow? How do they get connected in the first place? How do they get tested, I guess? And how does that continue?
Yeah, the marketing, as I kind of mentioned, was a little bit different than maybe some other service-based ones out there. And of course, the digital side is key there for attracting the adult children. So we build and host the websites, fully search engine optimized, pay-per-click campaigns, social media outlays, also having all the different national alliances that are built through our branding fund, which give them a place for mom, Veterans Care Coordination, so lead generators. But I always say most importantly, and how you scale your business over time, is the local referral marketing that's done. And what's seen as kind of the gold of the referral marketing is identifying the individuals out there. And we help to identify the referral sources in the community, which we've found over 40 different types: hospital dischargers, OBGYNs, rehab centers, mental health facilities. And we can help be able to import information into the CRM to get lists of them. And then we have marketing campaigns built specifically for each type that show you how to create that relationship. What marketing collateral, lunch and learn, what best practices on how to approach and get them to put you onto that discharge list so you can get clientele weekly, monthly.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Are you able to share any highlights of, successful franchisees, kind of earnings performance, or how long have you had some and what their success rate is like?
We've got a lot of tenure with owners. We've actually one of our longest tenured owners, 19 years, actually sold his businesses here about 2 years ago. And the new owners into there have already expanded into another market. But our top office in the U.S. here now does well over 20 million. The average owner in our system does over 1.89 million. which is up over last year's, which was 1.72 million. And that number continues to be able to grow double digits because, to the point earlier, there's no slowing down of this industry. And having about 1 out of every 6 franchises we award goes to an existing owner really helps show the fact that you don't buy your third unless you did well with your first 2.
Yep.
And they're referring also a number of new owners through our franchise referral program to where people that they know,
Oh, that's fantastic.
former friends or fraternity brothers or whomever it may be,
Right.
they're now becoming franchisees because of that success.
And I didn't know that stat about 1 out of every 6 is to an existing franchise. That's very impressive. Wow.
It is. I mean, it's not, new growth is absolutely our focus into here. And
Sure.
this is all domestic growth. We're keeping
Yeah.
the branding funds, everything else domestic into here. But it's something that we really want to evaluate the expansions, making sure that if someone does wish to expand, it's not just, okay, let's go ahead and do that as a
Right.
defensive measure. We really want to make sure individuals hit a certain amount of gross sales revenue, certain amount of time in. We look at where they have business outside of their current market to make sure that it's strategic growth. And that's where owners can protect that future growth. They'll have multiple sellable assets because this is a high multiple industry when you do go to sell. Of course, having multiple sellable assets can really help grow that future sales cost.
Sure. For owners that are interested in growing into the medical side, what's typically kind of the timing of that?
So when it comes to the medical side, what I want to make sure that individuals looking at this never see us as a skilled medical franchise. We've removed that glass ceiling to say the core is non-medical, companion care, personal care, activities of daily living in the home, which is the fastest growing sector of healthcare. That is the focus. So we really don't want to see it until after 2 years, sometimes a little longer, because you're going to need to have an RN, a director of clinical services. It's mainly light skilled medical, like wound care, vital sign monitoring, different kinds of medication management, where you're a lot of times extending the relationship that you already have in the non-medical side to add on additional services in the skill, not necessarily to go out and get a whole nother group,
Right.
but to
No.
really
Okay.
extend that.
Right. Right. That's what I figured. Okay. Because there are times, yeah, when you're being discharged, you've got some of those things that you need to do. Anything else that you really want to share about what makes home helpers unique and final advice for entrepreneurs considering it?
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the big initiatives that we have here is the veteran initiative. We have a extremely strong veteran initiative, not only on the client side to where we've got multiple alliances to be able to help veterans achieve the benefits they're entitled to
Mm-hmm.
the VA and aid and attendance policy, but also we're the only home care that's signed into the military spouse program and hiring spouses of deployed or deceased veterans. And then every one of our veteran candidates that comes through and becomes an owner gets a 20% discount off the franchise fee, which puts pretty much about $10,000 back in their pocket because we know veterans don't fail. They follow the system to a T.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we definitely want to open our arms to. But even if you're not a veteran into here, it's very hard to find an industry and a brand that is fairly low cost. Like I said, it's not pocket change, but it's fairly low cost, has so much growth ahead of it. It is a margin focused business model there. And this is something that you can really have a compassion for what you do. You lay your head down at night and feel very good about what you're doing, and you've got a lot of future resale that's out there. This is something where eventually, inevitably, we're going to sell out of markets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be our owners that are negotiating the cost of their territories with potential new owners. So
Right.
it's only growing.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed having you here, Clay. This is an industry that's near and dear to me. Love seeing people succeed in this industry. It does take a unique person, but I appreciate how you take care of people through that and really make sure they're a good fit. That's really important.
It is. Like I always say, I'm a guide here to make sure that this is going to be a great partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought some to me here, even this year, that have just really followed that system to a T and have made such a great addition to the home helpers family.
Oh,
So
awesome.
can't thank you enough as well.
Awesome. That's a wrap for this episode of Franchise Focus. I hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. If you're thinking about franchise ownership or want to learn more about the brands we discuss, connect with me on LinkedIn or visit my website at blackmorefranchiseconsulting.com or just leave a comment. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share it with someone. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Franchise Focus.